Every time a messenger is sent, his message would abrogate some of the message before it, in matters of halal and haram, not in matters of la ilaha illallah and so on, in matters of halal and haram. And it adds things, one of which is to believe in the new messenger, in which the nations before, they didn't believe necessarily in that new message. So from one messenger to the other, there are things to be abrogated. Among the messengers of Bani Israel, the children of Israel, they would come and abrogate some things, but they would affirm what's the message before and add maybe some things, taken away some things, not from their own desire, but it's all from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is one form of nasr. Things have been changed. What was halal for a previous message in his message becomes haram and vice versa. And then with the final message, the message of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and this is the comprehensive message till the day of judgment, within the message itself, why the revelation is coming down unto the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, ruling will change throughout the 23 years when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was revealed to him the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam by the wisdom of Allah. The reason why the ayah is here, since the context of the ayat, if you've been coming, is about Bani Israel, the children of Israel and so on, because they denied that, especially when the verses of the Quran came ordering the Prophet ﷺ to change his direction during the Salah from facing Baytul Maqdis north to face Mecca south. So as it's mentioned in the hadith, and we mentioned that yesterday, that when the Prophet ﷺ migrated to Al-Madinah, the Jews, they used to like that he's facing Baytul Maqdis, Jerusalem, like them. But then when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed to the Prophet, and we're getting very close to this, right, the verses of the Tahweel al-Qibla, or the change of the Qibla, when these verses came down, they accused the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they used it as a way to say that, see, this is not the truth from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how can things be changed? So this ayah is to refute their call, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is able of all things. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decree a matter, and then it's changed, it's all by the wisdom of Allah. And this is something that happened in the nations before, and for them to say, out of just mere arguments, not to follow the truth, to argue, to find a way to argue, to say that there is no way revelations from Allah will be abrogated or cancelled or changed. This is something that they used to approve of, but once they found this, and revealed to the Prophet ﷺ, they used it as a way, and they denied something that they already believed in. For example, there are many abrogations, of course, before Adam alayhi salam, he was married to his wife, right? And his wife is a part of him. In the Sharia of the Yahud, right, this is haram to have joy from a part of yourself, right? Something like this, right? So this is a form of abrogation. It was permissible, then it became haram. The same thing when the sons of Adam, how would they reproduce? They have to marry each other. So the boys from one would marry the girls from another, and so on, right? So there was marriage here that became forbidden afterwards. So this is a form of nasr. This is a form of change of the ruling. Even the Sabbath itself, Sabbath, right, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forbade on them to do certain things on the day of Saturday, they all agreed that before it wasn't, right? And then it became something forbidden. So the issue of a nasr, for things to be changed with the ahkam, halal and haram and so on, this is something that has been happening from one messenger to the other. And even those who claim that, for example, khanzir or pork is forbidden, and it wasn't, and then it became forbidden. And those who claim till today that it's not forbidden for them anymore, although this is not true, but they changed themselves and they changed many things of the ruling. So that's why the verse was revealed to refute this call when they claimed that. So with regards to the nations before. And within the wahy to the Prophet ﷺ, there are things, there's nasikh and mansukh. There is a ruling that gets changed during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, and there are details of this and different types of this, and this is maybe not the time to discuss that in detail. This is something, if a person wants to pursue the matter of knowledge, he can study that in detail. And it's a very important knowledge for anyone that wants to be a scholar in the deen of Islam. If he doesn't know the nasikh and the mansukh, what has been cancelled and what has been not, then he is not to be a person of knowledge, of course. Because he might talk about something that has already been cancelled as a ruling, as we would see some of the clear examples in the Quran. For example, the rulings of forbidding alcohol or wine or intoxications did not come all at once. It was first permissible, and then the verses of the Quran even saying that this is one of the ways that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created these intoxications, or from the grapes and so on. تَتَّخِذُونَ مِنْهُ سَكَرًا وَرِزْقًا حَسَنًا, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the grapes, that you take from it sakara, that things that will intoxicate you. Right? The ayah, if a person recited, and one time a person asked me this question, isn't that ayah an evidence that we can drink wine and things of intoxication? And as if he found the treasure. Like, he's, mashallah, he's been reciting the Quran, and he found the evidence now that he's been, searching for it all along. This is very simply, although some it's not abrogated really, it's just stating a fact, that the grapes, yes, and so on, and the like of it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created it, and some people, they use it for this. It did not say anything of approving it. But of course, the other verses of the Quran came clearly to disapprove or to forbid drinking wines and so on. So it's a matter of consensus, very clear. But then the verses of the Quran do not approach the salah when you are intoxicated. So if somebody reading the Quran for the first time or wants to find something that for him to follow his desire, he can take this ayah as an evidence, as long as a person would say that he will drink this not before or after the salah, as long as he's not intoxicated during the salah, this is valid. And he would bring the evidence from the Quran, no problem. Right? But then, intentionally or unintentionally, he would ignore the other verses of the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forbidding it clearly. فَهَلْ أَنْتُمْ مُنْتَهُونَ, are you going to quit? This is clear. And of course from the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ and so on, consensus among the people of knowledge. And there are many things like this in which it was stated in the Quran cancelling the Quran, or the Quran cancelling a ruling that is in the Sunnah, and the ulama mentioned some examples of this, or vice versa. Although the Sunnah to cancel something in the Quran, this is, some said there is nothing, but some said maybe one ruling here or there, like the punishment of those of committing the act of the people of Lut, sodomy, and things like that. The punishment is not mentioned in the Quran, it's in the Sunnah as a way of abrogating things. But anyway, but this is again not the subject, but the point here, that an-nasakh, this is part of the wahy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that was revealed to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And people in their actions, they do that. A doctor would give a medicine and then he would change to another medicine because the sick person, he's not ready for this yet, and so on. So the rulings also in people's life is changed. But to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, nothing is the like of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have to realize something very, very important, matters of belief here, matters of aqidah, that before it's cancelled and after it's cancelled, overall, after all, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the all-knower of all things. Why this is important? Because some deviants, right, they believe, they call it in Arabic, and I don't want to get into the details of this, but they claim to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala al-bada', which means that Allah can, wal-'iyadhu billah, this is how they claim, He changes mind. That He would find something better and He would say it. This is definitely kufr, right? Very clear. This nasakh or this change, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows about it from before, right? This is a way to raise the Sahaba, for example, radiallahu anhum, while the verses is being revealed to them. If it was forbidden all at once, things would have been different. So to forbid it in a gradual way, right? But after all, everything is by the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and He subhanahu wa ta'ala knows what's going to be delayed and what's not, and what's going to be revealed when, and so on. And when people say that, when they claim that the wahy, instead of coming down on Ali radiallahu anhu, came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as if they state this as a way to introduce deviation to the matters of belief. So this is a very important aspect of aqidah, matters of belief, that there's no such a thing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows what's in the past and the future, the impossible, if it happens, how it happened, if it happens, and so on. So ما ننسخ من آية أو ننسها. So this is what an-nasakh is. ننسها, to make it forgotten or to make it delayed. the rulings would not come immediately, sometimes, did not come all at once, right? It took 23 years since the wahy came to the Prophet ﷺ, things been established gradually. And this is how the Quran was revealed. And the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, they used to ask the Prophet ﷺ as the third ayah after this, أَمْ تُرِيدُونَ أَن تَسْأَلُوا رَسُولَكُمْ كَمَا سُئِلَ مُوسَى مِنْ قَبْلِ. Or do you want to ask your Prophet the same way that Musa was asked before? The Sahaba radiallahu anhum, they were forbidden from asking about things that was not revealed yet, right? So that it does not become obligatory on them, as it happened to the people of Bani Israel. So as a result of that, they only asked the Prophet ﷺ 10 questions, and the 10 questions or so are in the Quran. يَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الْخَمْرِ وَالْمَيْسِرِ. They ask you about al-khamr and gambling. Then the answer comes, يَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الْمَحِيض. They ask you about menses and so on. Right? So it's only few questions that the Sahaba radiallahu anhum asked the Prophet ﷺ, and as a result of that, the wahy came from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And before they asked, and this was in the Lawh al-Mahfuz, the sacred tablet in the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that this will be revealed. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decreed for the matter that they would ask for the revelation to come down, although the revelation was already set with this, right? And that's why when the Quran was revealed unto the Prophet ﷺ with regards to the incidences, right? All of this is by the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It was not revealed as a whole book like that, but according to the things that happened at the time of the Prophet ﷺ. So, أَوْ نُنْسِهَا, to be made forgotten the ruling, that means nobody is to practice it and so on, or for it to be delayed, نَأْتِ بِخَيْرٍ مِنْهَا أَوْ مِثْلِهَا, that we will bring better than it or the like of it. So when there's something abrogated, the al-mansukh, there's nasikh and mansukh, right? There's something abrogated and something that is, there's the old and the new, right? The new one or the new ruling, if it's more in action, right, that means it's more in reward. If it's less in action, that's a relief from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it's always good, right? So for example, when the day of Ashura was obligatory for the companions radiallahu anhum in the beginning to fast it. This was an obligation in Mecca, to fast the 10th of Al-Muharram. Then when Ramadan was made obligatory, this was abrogated. The ruling of fasting Ashura as a mandatory act has been changed to be recommended only. So this is more action, because of the more reward. This is the mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the believers. And if the abrogation is to do something less, as the night prayer was made obligatory, and then they were relieved from this, that it's only recommended. So this is a relief from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Or when it comes to fighting their enemy, إِيَّكُمْ مِنْكُمْ عِشْرُونَ صَابِرُونَ يَغْلِبُوا مِئَتَيْنِ. The first ruling was 20 versus 200, they have no excuse. They have to be steadfast and fight. And then it's been made less as a way of relief for them, that it's only the double. 100 versus 200, they have to be steadfast, that is not permissible for them to run away. More than that, then it's permissible for them, right? So these are from the matters of change. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best, but it shows how the submission to the orders of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, testing His slaves with regard to this submission, whether they would submit or not. And the famous example in Surah Al-Baqarah at the end, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the ayat, لَا يُكَلِّفُ اللَّهُ نَفْسًا إِلَّا وُسْعَهَا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not put a burden on a soul that it doesn't bear. The ayah that was revealed, إِن تُبْدُوا مَا فِي أَنفُسِكُمْ أَوْ تُخْفُوهُ يُحَاسِبُكُمْ بِهِ اللَّهُ. That if you reveal something or you conceal it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will put you accountable for it, will hold you accountable for it. You'll be punished or rewarded for it. The whims, a thought that comes into one's mind, a person will be responsible for it, right? So this was too much, right, on the companions of the Allah anhum. They came to the Prophet ﷺ, as the hadith in Sahih Muslim, and جَثَوْا عَلَى الرُّكَبِ. They fell on their knees, right, because when the ayah was revealed. And they said to the Prophet ﷺ, O Prophet of Allah, we had been ordered to do things in our capacity. And then they mentioned it. As-salah, was-siyam, wal-jihad, right? Salah and zakah and siyam and fighting for the sake of Allah, we can bear this. This is all in our capacity. But we have been ordered to do something that is over our capacity. And that is that your whims or the thought, you will be accountable for it. which is something that you can't control this sometimes. Sometimes you have evil thoughts and shaitan throws this and runs away. So the Prophet ﷺ told them, do you want to be like the nations before? Those who said, سَمِعْنَا وَعَصَيْنَا. You want to be like those who said, we listen and we disobey? Say, سَمِعْنَا وَأَطَعْنَا غُفْرَانَكَ رَبَّنَا إِلَيْكَ الْمَصِيرُ. Say, we listen and we obey, and we seek forgiveness from you, O our Lord, and to you we shall return. He's the creator of the heavens and the earth, and we're nothing but slaves of Allah. If He ordered us to do something, subhanahu wa ta'ala, then we just have to submit ourselves to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you put your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you'll do it. So one day, as the narrator of the hadith, he said, فَلَمَّا ذَلَّتْ بِهَا أَلْسِنَتُهُمْ, when their tongues, when they said it, and they humbled themselves, sincerely, said it not, they're forced to say it, they said it sincerely, in state of humbleness, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the ayat after that. So this is, which is, there's no soul shall bear what it does not, no responsibility if it's over one's capacity. And this is very clear in the deen of Islam. So this is a clear relief from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to the believers as a result of these blessings from the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, that they submitted themselves. And you can imagine how much they get elevated, right, with the rewards from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because of this, right? And how Bani Israel, when they refused to go with Musa alayhi salam to fight and so on, and how they received the anger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, refusing, and how the Sahaba radiallahu anhum submitted to something that if you think of it with your own mind, there's no way that a person can, bear this. But when they submitted themselves to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they were elevated, purified, given the great reward. This is the ultimate, this is the perfect submission whatsoever. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala relieved them and relieved the ummah from such a burden. Right? And the ayat also talks about there is no isra and there is no of the difficulties that was on the nations before. This ummah is relieved from it by the mercy of Allah and the blessings of this early generation of Islam. And that's why when we say we follow them and we love them for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because of how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose them to be the reason for this ummah to be relieved from the agonies and the miseries and the difficulties that was established on the nations before as a result of their disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So نأتي بخير منها ومثلها. So we have to witness this, that if something has been changed, the ruling from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes, is to elevate the people and to relieve them from all kinds of evil things. أَلَمْ تَعْلَمْ أَنَّ اللَّهَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ. Do you know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is capable of all things? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ. No exception whatsoever. That's why shay is anything. This is a matter of belief, and this is something that has to be in our life, and there's implications to this, one of which is the issue of abrogation. And that's where the believers are tested to submit to all means of submission. Submission means that you submit, you don't put your own opinions or what you like, you submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in all of our affairs we have to witness this, and that's why the only one that we rely on and we put our trust on and we worship and the perfect love and the fear and the hope and so on is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because He's the only one subhanahu wa ta'ala that is capable of all things. So why then the heart should be attached to other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? In our ibadah, in our worship, in our belief in anything, we should have this in our hearts, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is able to make us the best people ever. So we just have to take the means and obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and He can elevate us subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you can see in the Quran how people in one action, in a very short period of time, they became the best people after being the worst people. Like for example, the Sahara or the sorcerers of the people of Fir'aun. How they were disbelievers and committing these major evil crimes with sihr and sorcery. But once they believed in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and in the message of Musa alayhi salam, in the same setting, in the same gathering, they became chosen by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be among the best of the people, right? And this is how the matter is continued to be the same. So it's not something that is too difficult or something far away to be attained. It's all valid if a person would put his trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and go forward and apply the orders of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so this is the first ayah with regards to the nasakh. And it shows of course the beauty of the Quran. This Quran is really if you talk about it forever, we would never be satisfied, because it's the real treasure in one's life that we should spend the time and the effort and so on to learn the book of Allah, because there's no other messenger to come. Each ayah is an ayah by itself. It's a sign from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned that in the Quran to see how significant is the Quran in our life. Imagine there's a prophet is present, right? And for the righteous, for the believers, when they think of this, if they think, oh, if there's a prophet present, we would definitely follow him and be with him, and right, our iman will be perfect and so on, right? Sometimes you think this way. But there's no prophet to come. The final messenger of Allah, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is the final messenger. But what still stays with the people is the Quran, and the Quran is supposed to do the same. And that's why this ummah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there will be always a group of this ummah, like the followers of the prophets at the time of the prophets, would continue to be there till the day of judgment, because the Quran is present. You understand? Before the Quran, there was a need for a prophet to come to elevate the human beings and to have those chosen ones, the righteous ones, to be the companions of the prophet, and they're always the best generation, or the best people in every generation. After the Prophet ﷺ, no more prophet to come. So what's going to bring the best people ever is the Quran, which is the miracle that stays. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that in the Quran in a very way that even the scholars mention, as the ayah says, وَلَوْ شِئْنَا لَبَعَثْنَا فِي كُلِّ قَرْيَةٍ نَذِيرًا فَلَا تُطِعِ الْكَافِرِينَ وَجَاهِدُهُمْ بِهِ جِهَادًا كَبِيرًا. Which means, وَلَوْ شِئْنَا لَبَعَثْنَا فِي كُلِّ قَرْيَةٍ نَذِيرًا. If we will, we would send in every village nadhiran, a warner, meaning a prophet. And this is not just in the past, till the day of judgment. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will, He would send a messenger to every village. Right? When you think of this, inshallah, this can have a great effect. The whole earth will change. But then what's the ayah says after that? فَلَا تُطِعِ الْكَافِرِينَ. Do not obey the disbelievers. وَجَاهِدْهُمْ بِهِ. Jahidhum from jihad, right? Jahidhum bihi. With who? With what? With the Quran. Struggle with them by the Quran. Jihadan kabira, a major struggle. This is not the jihad, physical fighting. This is with the Quran. This ayah is Makkiyah in Mecca, right? Before the jihad has been established and so on unto the Prophet ﷺ. And the ayah is referring to the Quran, that this is what's supposed to be taking the position or the state of a messenger in every village, is the Quran. وَجَاهِدْهُمْ بِهِ. By the book of Allah, struggle with the people, right? That means you call to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you invite them to the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to the truth, with the Quran. So this is the thing in our life that we're supposed to know and convey to others. As we said before, the Prophet ﷺ in his da'wah, in his calling others to the deen of Islam, he did not talk about philosophy and logic and back and forth and convincing and hours and hours. He would just recite the Quran to them. The Quran is like the messenger. But where are we from the Quran? Are we comprehending the Quran, understanding it, so that we can recite it and convey it to others, and just say it and translate it? Or if people do not know the language, just say the Quran and explain it to them without putting your own insights in it. Just convey the message the way it is. Of course, it has to be with the right message, and that's it. You'll be amazed what is the effect, or how the effect of the Quran into the people. Right? Like, for example, if you talk to someone that is an atheist, for example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, هَلْ خُلِقُوا مِنْ غَيْرِ شَيْءٍ أَمْ هُمُ الْخَالِقُونَ أَمْ خُلِقُوا مِنْ غَيْرِ شَيْءٍ أَمْ هُمُ الْخَالِقُونَ. Just translate it and try to translate it. Don't just think of it. Just try to say it and convey it to people with its meanings. Nobody can argue with this. It just make the matter done, finished. Have they been created from nothing, or are they the creators? Right? If they exist, either they would say we're created from something, right? So they claim there's a creator, even if that something to them is a creation, right? But this creation has to be created from something, right? And that's why the salsal, or this chain, no one with a wise mind, this is crazy if they say otherwise. So either they say they are created from nothing, and nothing does not create. There's There's no such a thing as nothing. Nothing does not create. So they are forced to say they have been created. That's it. Once they reach this, the matter is over. So the ayah in 3-4 words, finishes this matter, right? The ayat that talks about the rububiyyah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then for those, which is the majority of the people, when they believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you recite to them the Quran. The Prophet ﷺ, somebody comes to him, he recites a surah to him, right, from the disbelievers. And that's it. He does not even speak when the Prophet ﷺ has the best eloquency in speech. He would not speak to them, he would just recite the Quran. And that would be enough for them. Not just for the miraculous in its linguistics, but also in the meanings of it. So the same thing has to be done. And when people do this, mashallah, there's a great effect like this. And because the Quran is the position of the messenger. So the messenger, and that's why when they say no messenger is to come to the day of judgment and it's the responsibility of the ummah of the Prophet ﷺ, and we should convey the message, by this is distorted, is not yet clear. No, you convey the message of the Quran. So you have to have the knowledge of the Quran to convey that, because this is what is the position of the messenger, as if there's a messenger in every village. If there is somebody to convey the Quran to people, this is like a messenger in every village on the whole face of earth. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I'm sorry, I'm taking too long here. Briefly, أَلَمْ تَعْلَمْ أَنَّ اللَّهَ لَهُ مُلْكُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. Don't you know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to him, mulk السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ, the dominion, the kingdom of the heavens and the earth. Mulk is different than milk, right? Milk is ownership. Mulk is dominion or kingdom and so on. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the Malik, and He's Malik. He's the king of all kings, and He's the owner of all things. Because you can find people in this dunya, they are kings, but they don't own. They're kings over people, but they're not the owners of everything. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the owner of all things, and He is the king of all things, right? So that means the ultimate obedience should be to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the king of, and to Him the dominion of the heavens and the earth. وَمَا لَكُم مِّن دُونِ اللَّهِ مِن وَلِيٍّ وَلَا نَصِيرٍ. And you don't have, besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, مِن وَلِيٍّ وَلَا نَصِيرٍ, no wali, no protector, no guardian, no supporter, and no one to give you victory. And again, this is the ayah that makes the matter so exclusive, that how it's the wordings of it, وَمَا لَكُمْ, right? It starts with negating. You have nobody other than Allah, a protector and a guardian and so on, and someone that will give you victory. The way that the sentence is mentioned, that this is so exclusive. So you cannot say, but we can seek help from, but there's no exceptions. When the sentence is like this, you don't see exceptions in it. So when we say Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one that is our wali, guardian and supporter and help, and from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala we seek victory, and that's it. You put a full stop there. You don't say, but it's okay to do this and it's okay to do that. No, this is enough, right? Taking means, we don't have to talk about taking means. People, of course, they have to take means. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the only one that we seek help from by obeying Him and fulfilling the orders of Allah. And really, one last point is that we need to stress so much, by knowing this, again, stressing the fact and the importance of knowledge. We're living at times of fitna, and everybody claiming to know that they know what they're doing, and they know what this is right and this is wrong, and they will take means without following the text and the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, and that is causing so much fitna all over the earth. And if people do not follow the people of knowledge, right? If a person would claim that there's no people of knowledge and they're all sellouts and whatever they claim like this, then close the door on yourself and just be away from everybody. Because how would you act then without knowledge? Without the knowledge of the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, people will be lost. And people can think that they know, they have the knowledge of the Quran and the Sunnah. And they won't argue without the Quran and the Sunnah. They would say the ayah says this. Like this incident at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, the Prophet ﷺ did that with the disbelievers. And they talk, and now with the internet and everything, everybody's writing everything. If you mention any case or any situations anywhere, you would find everybody's writing everything with evidences, Quran and Sunnah, and this is the right way to be done. Did they study an-nasikh wal-mansukh? Did they study what is abrogated and what is not? Is it just about getting an evidence or something from the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ that you would think make your actions validated, right? And again, related to what's happening all over the world, whether it's in Egypt or in Syria or any place, doesn't matter. People are, we sit and if we sit and we open the subject, you would find ourselves, we know everything. And we talk about the matter with no problem whatsoever. This is right and this is wrong. And this is how we go about it. And if we don't do this, then the evil is going to be this. And you would never hear قال Allah, قال Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And if people would say what Allah said and what the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, are we that knowledgeable that we can cut and paste and say things without referring to the, not just any person of knowledge? In these types of situations, right, you have to make sure that you know the most knowledgeable person on earth to ask him, because there might be bloodshed, there might be disasters that a person would lead to. So he has to ask the most knowledgeable person, and if he doesn't know anyone, lock yourself in your home and worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala till death comes. Otherwise, this is a very big danger thing, because of one of the benefits that we learn from this. So to be so courageous, and this is not courageous, this is the opposite of that, to use the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ when people never studied the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ to justify their actions and to take one hadith out of context. And this is what has been happening now. To take one ayah here, one hadith here, and everybody's talking, and all the means of social media and everything is allowing us to say anything we want, and everybody becomes shuyukh, mashallah. It doesn't work this way. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Ask the people of knowledge if you do not know. If you do not know, we do not know. Right? Meaning knowing what? Knowing the text, not knowing from our experience how things works and reading history, and we can just look into history and make our decisions. No. Quran and Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ comprehended. Right? It's a lifetime learning and knowing and so on. Otherwise, we should then stay away, and this is the ruling when it comes to matters of fitan, is to stay away totally from it. Not to even share with a word, or with an action, or with anything. To stay away from matters of fitan, otherwise we will be responsible for anything that we say and anything we do. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to save us from the fitan, and to make us among those who apply the orders of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala based on the clear knowledge of the Quran and the way of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.